Hello, and welcome to this month's GP Optimizer webinar. This one today is Better Together, and I have a lot of well-known faces and MVPs in the GP community joining me today, so super excited about that. Before we get started, just so you know, this webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out when we are done. So if you'd like to share it, pass it on to those that you know in the community, team members, and so on, that will be available. Also, everybody will be on mute during the webinar, but you do have the option to go ahead and send us and submit questions in the chat, and we will be reviewing those towards the end of the webinar, so feel free to do that as well. Or if you want to comment on maybe something that somebody has shared, feel free to do that. We love some feedback as well. And just to let you kind of know, like the logistics or the flow of today's webinar is more going to be we're going to do a little, instead of show and tell, we're going to do some tell and then show. At the end, we'll leave some space in case somebody wants to jump into GP and show us something. We're going to leave that option open as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mark. I'm going to let him go ahead and introduce himself, Mark Rockwell, and then and then you can pass the baton to the next person. So I'll let each of you introduce yourself before we get into questions.
Great, thanks, Jen. My name is Mark Rockwell. I've been in the channel for a very long time. Rockton's actually celebrating 25 years in the GP space this month, which is very exciting. Thank you, very exciting. I have been in the GP channel a really long time. I think a lot of you know most of the people on this call. And I'm here to provide more moral support. I don't use GP on a day-to-day basis, except when it relates to our products. And so I kind of hired Amber to come in as a proxy because she knows this stuff a lot better. And so I'm going to defer a lot of my answers to her. But the cool part about this webinar is that there will be questions that offer an opinion, and I've always got those. So I'm here to share with that part as well. But I do have a couple of my favorites that I will share when appropriate. And I'm gonna pick on Bob next.
All right, Mark. Thank you very much. Good day, everybody. I'm Bob McAdam. I have also been in this channel for a long time. These days, I'm running strategic partnerships at Tasklet, and I am also co-host of Enterprise Software Podcast. So I am keeping my hands in as many ERP pots as I can these days, but the GP one has been my favorite for a long time, and I am very pleased to be here today. So thank you for the invite. Who's next? Mark Polino. How about that?
Thanks, Bob. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Polino. I am currently the Director of Customer Success at Delinea. Delinea purchased FastPath, so most of you will know the FastPath name. That happened earlier this year, so you'll get to see something new at Summit if you join us there. And I have also been in the GP space longer than I like to admit. Probably about as long as Rockton's been around. So it's good to be here with everyone. Amber?
Hey, my name is Amber Bell. I have worked with GP since I was in kindergarten. So I started when you guys
Wow.
were. No, that's what I say when you say how many years it is. You just have to back up how old you are. That's the trick. Then no one knows how old you are. No, I've worked with GP for a really long time. I actually remember the first GP conference I went to, I saw Mark up singing. So he set the bar for some pretty cool memories at all the different events we've been able to do together. I was recently named an MVP for Microsoft for my working with communities and all the things I do. So that was a really exciting thing. My company is called Training Dynamo. I focus on training and getting more people, helping people get more out of GP. And so when I posted that I was going to attend this, and then over the weekend, Mark's like, hey, how about you talk to? So here I am, a promoted attendee to be a speaker.
You're going to bail the rest of us out when we trip on something.
Lucky you. Lucky.
Right.
I was going to say lucky you, but lucky us. Yeah.
And a quick tie into there is at Summit next month. Rockton has the 10-minute thing. Many of us have a 10-minute thing in the theater show, and we are doing Rockton live in concert. So I'll be doing some more singing upcoming.
All right.
Nice.
Just to tease you with that.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we're going to jump right in. First question. Which module or feature do you feel is underutilized in GP? And I'm just going to let whoever feels like they have the answer to go first.
Amber saves us out of the gate.
Amber, ladies first. Let's go.
I think
You only get one, by the way.
I only get one. Okay, then it's over. Then I get to hang up and work on client work and make some money. But what I go back to this pretty much every event is I talk a lot about getting people to use the navigation lists. And I will go into sessions and people will say, literally other presenters will go, nobody uses these. And then I want to go, no, you have to use them. The reason I like them is that you not only can see things like transactions and vendors and accounts and items, but you can run reports from them. So you can pick specific negative balance customers or negative balance vendors without having to run separate agings. You can see them all together. You can activate, inactivate, void. You can do a lot of really cool things. And the interface to me is a lot more user friendly. So as people are learning GP, if they can get into using that for a lot of day-to-day stuff, for actual end users who all I do is work with vendors, if they can learn how to use those, they're very handy. One of the things I had requested, and I don't know who was the final requester that got it promoted, but they've added batch ID. So being able to see the batch ID that transactions are in is huge. So navigation will talk for hours. I love it. There's other ones I have, but I got invited last minute, so you guys might have cool things in your list, and I don't want to overtalk.
But mine is somewhat aligned, and that's just SmartList itself. SmartList is just so powerful, and the reason it's underutilized is people often don't realize that you can customize it. You can make a list of anything, and I mean anything, and filter and sort and put your favorites at the top. And I think a lot of people think that just the vanilla stuff that's there when they do pick it, or somebody says, oh, why don't you go ahead and go into this little smart list over there, and this is where you can get your information. To take the time to say, hey, there's so much more there that you can get, or anybody who has a job that utilizes GP, there can be a smart list customized for just them that can make their lives so much easier. Highly customizable.
I would stick to that theme a little bit and say SSRS reports. I just find that the fact that there are so many native GP reports that have been rewritten in SSRS, if you run it in GP, it's hard to get to Excel. It's not a report that is in the Excel reports, especially when we talk about historical reports. Being able to just run those in SSRS, push a button, and send them to Excel is a giant win.
And just to clarify, Mark, you're saying that you can get into Excel from SSRS, which you cannot do from Dex report.
Which you cannot do from GP.
Right. Okay.
They also often run a lot faster. Same report is a lot faster in SSRS than it is in GP.
And getting it to Excel is a lot easier.
Yeah,
sure.
I'd probably say workflow. Microsoft took a couple of shots at getting workflow right, but on the third rendition, they really got it right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some great guardrails in there that every company, regardless of size, should use, right? Creating general ledger accounts, creating vendors. Why should anybody besides the controller be creating a general ledger account to post to? Why should anybody be creating a vendor other than the procurement manager, where eventually a vendor gets paid by check or ACH? I mean, and it's so easy to roll out. The workflow will protect you and will make sure that process flows are a standard part of your organization. And our good friend Sean Dorward, if you visit his lifehacks365.com website, has a diagram with every workflow, what section it fits into, like the type of workflow and which edition of GP it came out in. And you could see everything that's available to you in one diagram. It's a great resource, and I feel like every company, every reseller who's deploying GP should be making sure workflow is on their statement of work. It's not a lengthy process whatsoever.
Well, this next question might flow into that, or Amber, give you more opportunity to share some of those other ones that you had to maybe put by the wayside for right now. But what is one thing every user should know for their daily GP use?
Oh, here we go.
Again,
and
ladies
you can answer.
first.
You can be more than
Ladies
than
first,
one,
yes.
Amber.
Right, yeah.
Talking
She's
talk.
got 17.
One thing everyone on the call should know is I do talk fast. I work really hard to slow down. But if anyone's looking for help with GP, I'm cheaper per word than anyone else out there. So if you want a lot of
Cheaper per
really
word.
good training for and less time, if I let it loose, I can speak so fast. One thing that I think is that they should take the time to make their navigation as easy as possible. The reason I did this is I can throw a lot of my other things into that. So number one is take the time to clean up your homepage, use the My Reports, use the reminders from SmartList so you know like any new vendors that are missing 1099 information, you see it. All kinds of new GL accounts added. All of those things can be reminders. Use the toolbar. A lot of people don't use the toolbar, and I make a standard one of process monitor to see why your GP looks like it's stuck, exiting properly, closing all windows. And then also on the navigation pane on the side, use keyboard shortcuts that you can do for the navigation pane to open either windows in GP, even opening websites or external files or programs. And macros, which is another thing everyone should use.
Macros are great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go again. I think the thing that I wish I could tell any seasoned user that's using GP is to take today or just any normal day and just make a little note. And when you're working in GP, note how much time you're spending in any one screen or any group of screens doing your daily job. And look in an 8-hour day or whenever you work and say, I spend 4 hours a day in this screen or in doing these tasks. And then go ask people like Amber and Sean Dorward and people on this call and post it on the community. Is there any way I can make this better or faster? And the odds are you could probably cut half of your job, just eliminate it in time, because there's a bigger, better, faster way to do that. Because there are so many tools. There's, like we mentioned at the top of this call, smart lists and navigation tools and all that can make your job just so much simpler and so much easier if you are aware of the tools and just ask. The thing is that people get in these ruts of just doing the same thing as they were trained or whatever, and there's so many more efficient ways. And so keep that in mind, and that's all part of this whole theme of this talk is maximizing your use out of GP, because it's a great tool, and there's so many great tools out there. One other tool to mention is Pistol, PSTL. I forget what it's called. This
Professional
Pistol
services,
stand for, yes,
professional
and
services library.
right, and that used to cost money, but it's free now.
Yeah.
And it does so many things, so many cool things. So if you've not heard of Pistol, PSTL, go look that up. There's probably, just read the list of tools that it has. There's probably a tool in there that you didn't know you needed, and it's in there.
Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
I feel like we're in the same order, which I was trying to break, but that's okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I would say being able to copy and paste from Excel into transactions, into general ledger, into payables transactions. There are so many things that you end up going to Excel for because they're complex, and there's no reason to screw them up by having to key them in and fat fingering something as you put it in. Just use the copy and paste and be done.
Something I learned in my early days, and I too was also in kindergarten, was that making batch processing standard fare makes sense. Stop posting transactions one at a time, create a batch, review it, make sure it's accurate, then post it. And on a related note, post it all the way through. So if something's wrong, it's wrong on the subledger and on the GL, and you can fix it sending it down the same path, posting all the way through in a batch, even if it's just one item to fix something that you screwed up the first time around. So those little small process things make it just better all the way around.
Tangent time. I'm curious, has there ever been any useful reason to not post through the general ledger? Why would you post to a general ledger, change it, and then post through? It looked
Yeah,
like
you're
an
right.
advanced feature when it first came up, but I'm like,
Hmm.
that sounds awful. So
Uh,
Someone
anybody
could
know any
potentially
valid reason why?
manipulate it at the front door, and then it's not the same. So I
The
totally agree.
the only time I've ever seen it matter is I saw someone who was not using GP as their general ledger. They were using it as a subsystem. And so they would post
Mm-hmm.
to the general ledger, and then the transactions would get picked up and entered or
Mm.
transacted in another system. But I've seen it once in
Once,
25
yeah.
years. So um, I wouldn't say it's something that we need to worry too much about. Post it all the way through.
Yep.
All right. So then on to the next question is, as a user, what is the best advice you've ever gotten? The GP user.
I could go first, but I want to be nice if someone else has something first. Otherwise, I could go.
Break the order, break the cycle.
Go ahead, Amber.
Go ahead. Okay. When I was learning GP, one of the best thing is always hit F1. If you're in a window in GP, there's going to be help on that window. If it's newer, sometimes it'll actually open up the blog post or the article on the GP docs about that. And the other thing that I tell people is if you're learning GP, have access to a test company, and it's even better if it can be the GP built-in test company, Fabricam, because you can open up security more on that company without worrying that a user is going to see stuff they shouldn't see, so that they can watch the workflow. But don't set them up as power user ever, even on Fabricam, because they get too much access. So don't do that, but get access into really testing things out. When I was learning the flow of general ledger, I would literally set up GL accounts on items, and I'd make it 11111, 22222, 333, just to see where that account went. And I saw like how that account flowed in voids and flowed in different transactions, and when it would get stuck and when it would end. And so learning how to use that test company to go bananas and try whatever you want is really awesome.
I'll go next to break the order this time. On the heels of what Amber just said, one of the things, or a good piece of advice I got a long time ago, was, don't assign the power user to, let's say, the CEO or the CFO. They're always going to ask for it because, of course, they're an officer of the company and they should have the best access to everything. And in your mind, you're thinking, my God, this is going to be a train wreck. So what I used to do was I'd create my own group called super user, and then I'd take away some key stuff like admins and setups. And then when the CEO or CFO asked me, did you make me a super user? I'd say, I made you a super user. And it was 100% spot on. But I had to cover my own backside. So that's how I got around that little problem with the customer.
I
That's
like it.
ingenious.
Super users actually read only in Bob's mind.
That's what
All
makes
these
them
inquiry
superior.
windows are ready to go. Don't worry.
I think the best advice I got was pretty early, and it was around the chart of accounts and really just thinking really hard through that and what accounts you really want and what order you want them in. How are people going to enter this? I was working with a customer very early who was like, well, can't we just build out every possible combination we might want? And we did the math, and it was like 1.4 billion accounts in the chart of accounts. And so the answer was no. We can't just build them all out.
Yeah.
But like you're going to be stuck with that for a very long time. If you decide you want, company, department, account, whatever, or do you want to start with account and then work your way down because everybody has the account first? Whatever order you pick, you're going to have for a very long time. So that's when you want to get right early.
Good. Mine was not. You can answer again, Amber, in a second.
I'm sorry. I
Is
didn't. I didn't mean to. Sorry. Go ahead.
is ask for help. And that's just an adage with everything, but with GPs specifically, this community is so rich with blog posts and community groups.
Hmm.
Anything that you think is a weird question, somebody's been across, because this is such a robust platform, been around a long time. Somebody has an answer, and there's a great community.
Yeah.
So that's good advice there. And the other tip, which I actually told myself, was when you're directly in SQL and you write scripts like delete RM000101, the customer record, be sure to include a where clause. So when you delete customer, where the customer equals, Adam
Text
Fitz,
row ID number. Yes, that's right.
yes, the where
Yeah.
clause, just remember the where clause is really important. Really important.
That
Maybe
ties
do
before
back,
that,
do
like
that
a
through
full
SQL.
backup.
Do
yeah,
it through the
that
front
ties
end.
back to
And if that's not important, backups are really important.
Yeah.
Less.
Tested backups.
Yeah, I say less deletion out of SQL. Make them do it through the front end because there's way too many checks and balances that you skip if you just go. And Mark, do not recommend people delete their customers out of SQL. That's a
Wait, wait,
terrible way to do it.
No,
but wait a
I'm
minute.
just
What if you own the company and you're a super user though?
Super user.
Got to ask Bob to
I,
set you up first.
That's right.
Then maybe you can.
I generally agree, Amber, but I did see somebody drop their customers or they dropped their receivables table via the interface in GP. They were an admin and they didn't know what they were doing and they wiped the table out. And
I didn't say do the drop table. I meant go into the customer or the navigation list, which, by the way, everyone should be using, and you do the delete from the navigation list, which is a lot less scary.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would
I'm
have
actually
been
curious, Amber,
scary.
because I'm learning so much on this call as well. In the navigation list, can you select multiple customers and
Yeah,
delete them all at once?
you can mass
See,
delete.
that in itself is a brilliant reason to use navigation list.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and it'll stop you if there's any posted, unposted history, if they exist on a sales transaction, etc.
Right.
Nice, nice. So we're kind of speeding through these, so I'm going to add two more. One, is there
Oh, gee.
anything else, like a question that I didn't ask that you're like burning, like something you're burning to share about GP? So we'll start there. So Amber, I don't know if you have leftovers that you want to
Oh, I
share.
have
But
so
you
many.
can share.
No, it's like I'm like sitting on my hands. I was going to say what Mark actually did. I didn't realize the changing of the order threw me off. I thought Mark had already gone last time, but I agree. The community is literally like life changing for me to be part of this community. It gave me an opportunity to really learn. I love learning and I love troubleshooting and puzzle solving and being part of some, using GP day to day and doing that for customers has been helpful. But going to events and hearing these things people have gone through, and then also just being mentored by some amazing people, many on this call, all of you guys, and really going from being able to be mentored by amazing people and then mentoring others, and then helping others and just being part of that. Like when I think about the time in my life that I started in GP and where I'm able to be now as a business owner, as starting literally at the front desk at a partner and working my way into being a consultant to now being an internationally well-known GP celebrity.
Multiple galaxies, right?
In this tiny world, we're all a really big deal, but our neighbors don't know what we do. That's how it all is.
That's true. Well put.
Now, I want to echo that. I started blogging because I would do dumb things and I would go find an answer and I'd write it down and I would say, I need to know this because otherwise I'm going to do this dumb thing again. And the simplest place was to keep it someplace where I could find it again. And that ended up being a blog. And apparently other people also tripped over the same things that I would. So for all the people who helped me keep me from doing dumb things, I appreciate all the help that the community gives too.
And Mark, have you 10 years later ran into a problem, Googled it, and found your own blog?
Oh, yeah.
Every
Okay.
time.
Well, man, I was really smart that day. I don't know what's happening today.
That's a very humbling experience. Like, oh my God, look how detailed this answer is. Who's the author? Oh,
Oh, me. 10,317 pages, and I'm listed first.
Yeah.
Wow. That's got to be great.
Good.
So yeah, ditto for me on all things community. I've been involved with events for a long time, helped to get GPUG started. Next month, by the way, is the 17th annual GPUG Summit. Old habits die hard. I still say that. So I hope that end users will be there because partners and ISVs will be there, and lots of people like Amber giving presentations around just getting smarter on the application each day. You can take a lot home, train your colleagues who were not lucky enough to meet you in San Antonio for a few days of fun and learning and advanced networking opportunities, and really just leverage a week out of the office, build a network, and come home smarter on your day-to-day job. Those things all have value, and you can obtain each of them inside of a few days, making your way to Summit next month. So we'll all be there waiting for you. So put it on your calendar if it's not there already, because it's coming up very soon.
Well,
Very soon. I feel
our
like it
theme-
came up sooner than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Man, oh man. So much to do.
Our theme here is get the most out of what you already have, and I think Summit's a great place to do that. And sometimes I know a lot of people will tell me, "Oh, I feel like I only use 20% of GP. There's so much I don't know. There's so much more that I could use to get more out of it." Buying something else, you'll still use only 20% of it. Like your habit hasn't changed. Whereas this is a really rich community with a lot of people who've done a lot of just crazy things. So if you're wanting to figure out how to do something with GP, it's probably been done in this ecosystem. And
Yeah.
someone has probably explained how to do it at least one time. If you feel like you're only using 20%, if you feel like you want to get more out of your investment, Summit, blogs, people you see here, there are all kinds of ways to do that.
Amber will
and
bring you
kind
from 20% to 65% all by yourself.
Right.
and kind of related to that, Mark, is that um, everything that should ever have been written to do in GP has been written. It
Yeah.
has been about 15 years ago. I know at Rockton we ran a little contest and we said, if you could make GP do anything, what's the product suggestion? Because we were looking for product as an ISV trying to build some new products, and we got about 10 excellent suggestions, and they ended up being really small customizations that did some amazing things. And so we put them in a tool set, and we expanded our GP toolbox with those. And what that was, and once those were all written, we've asked since, and we have new employees that come in over the years, and they ask like, "Well, why don't we write a new GP product?" I'm like, because it's all already been written. There's not really anything left to write and develop on GP. That's how rich the ecosystem is. And so, if you are having a problem, then you're not asking the right people how to solve it because it's probably been solved.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that because from a different perspective, what I thought was really interesting working with my developer team not too long ago when they were looking at other ERPs and when they go to develop on GP, things just are simpler and easier. Like even when they go through the code and they look at the design and they look at the infrastructure and they look at the back end, all of that, it's just interesting to see how thoughtful it was done out of the gate and over the years. And so, yeah, it's really cool to see. So, yeah, awesome. Well, that was a semi good lead into my last one. Amber, did you have something else? You raised your hand
Oh,
for a
she
second.
does.
Yeah, go for it.
One thing is that this is just me being weird. I have my hair back today because it's crazy, but I have this pillow, and when I'm the right way, I look like Princess Leia. So I look like I had a client tell me that one time. So I'm like, if I sit exactly right, it looks bad. But anyways, no, the thing that I was going to say was when I forget, I think it was Mark or Bob or whoever said that if you're only using 20%, you'll only use 20% on the other system. And people, if they are looking at moving to other systems and they don't take the time to train and figure out what is taking them so long, sometimes they'll figure that out and then say they want to stay in GP. And that's what I found. I've have worked with many clients that are like, we're going to toss it out the door, but we want to give you a chance to help us. And then they figured out all these things that were driving them bananas could be done efficiently and done well in GP. Asking an accounting team that stretched to their limits and not doing it well in GP to now learn a new accounting software without fixing how they're able to work in GP, you've not freed up the time for them to learn something new. And you're going to start out with an angry accounting team that can't do it in both systems. So take the time to get them really, really working efficiently and well in GP. And if someday that the door opens for you and you feel like the need to move to another software is there, you've got really talented people who can work efficiently that can take that burden of learning a new system on.
And I think that's there with
goes
third
back to
parties.
that process.
I think that's there with third parties too. If you're having a problem, someone has written a solution for it, as Mark said.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at how much time and energy you're burning with people wasting time, you might look at a solution and say, oh, that's expensive in your mind. But then when you think about hiring a person and what all the costs are around that, or what would happen if you got a free person back because you were able to automate a bunch of these things, that's something that I think people just miss when they really start looking at this.
Which is a great lead in to my next question. Like, if for some reason it's not in GP, what is a third party product that you feel is a must when it comes to enhancing operations?
Let's see. Third parties.
Amber.
Oh, there's one.
Okay, I was
That
biding my
isn't a
time. I'm just going
shameless
to jump in and go
plug.
first. I know you have to live with SmartFill. I realize it's a bit shameless, but if you're not using SmartFill inside of GP, then you might as well just go chop your arms off. It is just a necessary tool in order to navigate and function around. If you don't know what it is, just go to Rockton's website. Take 2 minutes to understand. We've always had a hard time marketing. Like, how does this do? It does so many things. But in short, it's a Google-style search tool inside of your ID fields in GP. So when you're looking up a customer, you can type anything about the customer, their address, their nickname, their phone number into the ID field, and a little search window will come up and say, are you talking about these 3 customers? Oh, you want this one here? And it just makes data entry so much faster.
Yeah. And with SmartFill, I was going to mention that one too. One of the things that I really like is I have a customer who has a Mark Polino's favorite kind of chart of accounts where someone literally just did every combination of every number. And that was, and I helped him get rid of a bunch of accounts. But even with that being the case, they do break down their accounts by their locations, and they do have a complicated structure just by nature. But what we did was they got SmartFill, and we were able to add the account description. But when it pops up on the side, it also tells them the location, which isn't in the name because their names are consistent across. So they were having errors with people picking the wrong location. And so they can filter. There's a sub filter built into SmartFill that you can filter again. And you can include other data that's not in GP. You can run it on SQL views as well if you need it. So SmartFill is great. And can I say Auditor? I mean, I know there's other, and I'll tell you two since I've already talked. Auditor from SmartFill is leaps and bounds above the Auditor built in by Microsoft GP, because the ability to put rules if people are changing data on customers, vendors, items. You can say Mark Polino changed the remit to address to his address at this day and this time, and the old address was this, and now it's Mark on fancy boulevard, whatever he changed it to. So that's a really, really big one. Other than Rockton tools, which are awesome and wonderful, I think everyone should have SmartList Builder. I think the ability to get your data and build, not just that you can build a lot with SmartList Designer, but the ability to build your own go-tos, the ability to do consolidated summary reports, multi-company reports is really big. And I love collections through Professional Advantage. I have a million that I love and ones that I go back to time and again because they solve problems and make it easier.
Yeah,
Check.
Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say checks in the mail, Amber. No, just kidding. I too was going to say SmartFill. And without even discussing functionality, because to me it is a no-brainer. All you have to do is meet someone, and I've met a few people who worked at a GP customer that had SmartFill and then took a new job with a different company also running GP, and they did not have it. And they, that's the first thing they noticed was, why is this? Is this a different version? Why is this much more difficult than what how I learned GP in the first place? So that's one thing I would say. No paid compensation was sent out my way for this, nor was it expected. SmartFill is a no-brainer for GP customers. And let's give a shout out to our mate down under in WA for the GP Power Tools. If you're old enough to remember, like me, going back to kindergarten again, when it was the support debugging tool, something that our friend David Musgrave built to help him do his job at Microsoft better in supporting GP customers. And over time, it just got bigger and bigger. And it's a behemoth. It's a beast. No more blow up kangaroos at the booth, David. Bring a couple of guys that are buff and ready to go, because you've got a beast there. It's a monster. The GP Power Tools, for any administrator, a single administrator could manage an entire system, even with several users and customizations and whatnot, from that tool. It's that effective. David's very thorough. And I hear he's added some no code, low code stuff to it. So you don't have to be a nerdy dexterity guy, pardon my redundancy. You can really be an excellent administrator all the way around by leveraging David's tool. It's really a remarkable offering for GP. And I would be remiss if I said most every customer should probably deploy that. It's really effective.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
I would start with security tools. Delinea makes some, Rockton makes some. We're not picking winners here, but I would rather you have an audit tool. I would rather you have a security tool than nothing. It's just too easy for people to wander through the organization and walk out with money. I do a regular fraud blog as well, and the number of people who just write checks to themselves in whatever system they're in is
frightening.
It's frightening. Like it is not news. It is just common for people to write 100K in checks to themselves. So have a tool that can help you prevent that. I think the other thing I would say is GP no system lives in a vacuum anymore. So Smart Connect from E1, being able to pull data in and out to other systems, I think is a giant win.
And adding on to the E1 wagon, really love their extender product. I thought was a game changer when they did it.
And
Just to be able
PopDoc.
to, everybody needs extra stuff, just tracked about extra things, and it's a no code, way to do that. And then PopDoc to be able to see different information from stuff. I've always appreciated it, in our company included. I think that E1 has been probably the most innovative in the last 20 some years of some of the things they do. So really appreciate their products.
I forgot. I've worked a lot. I work a lot with SalesPad from Cavallo, and that to me, the thing when it's a really good add-on, you start to forget that it's an add-on. Like you forget,
Totally.
like 'cause it just takes away, or
Right,
like
because you're running your business in
you're
it,
running your
literally.
business through it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like you were saying, Bob, that or Mark, I can't remember. You all look the same to me. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just that with I had a client that when they got SmartFill, they literally told me we can't. A couple months in, they couldn't remember life before it. Like it was just that much better for them. That after it, they got better. Mark is with FastPath, owned by your new company. I can't remember, but
Linear.
I've said it on, what's it called?
Delinea.
Delinea. Okay. So with Delinea, what I really appreciate about your product and what you guys can do next level for security is being able to take the login and security to modern rules and modern requirements and modern management, which some people think I've got to get rid of GP because it doesn't allow me to manage it with these enterprise tools and enterprise requirements. And for you to still be able to keep the foundation on, they're doing their data entry in GP, but their security is just leaps and bounds of what it could be.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that. That's always fun to hear. So now we're to the point where if anybody wants to show and tell, if anybody wants to actually show their favorite tip or trick.
Come on, Amber.
Anybody
This is
have
right in your
GP up?
wheelhouse.
I could show stuff. Is that okay?
The next 20 minutes will be brought to you
Absolutely.
by Training Dynamo.
So it says I have to ask the presenter to make the person to make me a presenter because it's
Let
disabled to
me.
share.
I can't believe Jen
Oh,
hasn't already done that.
Yeah.
I
And while she's
know.
loading that, I'm
Make
going to
you a
do a
presenter.
dance interpretation of what she's talking about.
Oh, great.
An interpretive dance.
So we're gonna go. So I'm logged into GP, and I just want to show a couple of things that I mentioned before. So the toolbar across the top, I like to include Process Monitor in this. What Process Monitor will do is if you are in posting and you haven't finished all your printing. Oh, sorry, I was going to close that to look at you guys, but then it ruins the window. I forget. When you do Process Monitor, let's say that I've posted and all the posting journals are running, and then one of them printed to screen and I forgot to close it. What will happen is that everything behind that will get stuck. So I can come over. I'm gonna ruin something in GP, but we'll make it work. So we're just gonna go ahead and post it. And this is where I'm in my test company, which I recommend you guys use. And we'll just go here and there. And I'll cancel one. It doesn't matter. Okay, and let's cancel. I just want something to go on the screen so you can see it. Okay, so this is gonna print. And what I have seen people do is they will minimize it and then they go and they try to do something else. So they might go into Smart List and they go, oh, I want to look at my vendors, and they just come in and they wait and Smart List isn't running. And then they go, oh, you know what? I want to run an aging. So let me just go and run an aging for these. So they come over here and I'm just going to run this. And they go and they say, run the aging. And they go, okay, I want to print that. And they're going, oh yeah, go to the screen here. It's fine. And they go, nothing's working. So what they'll do is Control Alt Delete and get themselves out of GP, which can corrupt data, especially if you're in the middle of posting. So what I do is I'll hit Process Monitor, and I can see that payables posting isn't finished, and that is because I have not finished closing all those windows. So I will go in and I'll close that window. If I have a million windows open and I'm not sure what's holding it up, I will just hit Close All Windows, and it'll start printing the rest of those and finish that out. And I'm not doing a support call for something like that.
Awesome.
So there we go. Mark had mentioned mass deleting customers out of SQL, which is awful. So don't do that. Please do it using this. So if we come in here, we can see here's a list of customers. If you use, I'm going to just do all. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to pick people that have a zero balance, which I can do here is 0. And I'm just going to pick 3 of these just because I want to see. I can come up and, I took off the delete from here. But if I make,
Smart.
yeah, let's just discard that. So I'll just pick 3 random over here just to show you. So 1, 2. You can mass delete from up here, but when it tries to delete, you'll see that it failed. I can print that and I can see why it failed. And you can see because there's history. So using navigation lists for reviewing your customers and vendors is awesome. If you're ever in a window you use all the time, you can hit File, Add to Shortcuts. It will add it to your navigation pane here on the side. I can right click on there and go to Shortcut Properties. I can assign a function key, and I usually rename it if I do that. And then now I can be anywhere in the system, and I can hit the F2 and it opens that window. It can do that for GP windows, but you can also add shortcuts to other GP windows. You can have it open a specific smart list, run a macro, open a web page, or even open external shortcuts. So it can open another program if you would like it to. So those are a couple of my tips. I keep going, but those are the ones that I think are pretty awesome. And like I said, I could talk and talk, but that's those are some that I think are really awesome.
Yeah, that's are really good. Thank you for sharing those, Amber. Does anybody else have any show and tell?
I can't say that I have show and tell, no.
That's okay if you don't.
If we want more, I could talk until you tell me to stop talking, but.
Well, Amber, you have a couple more minutes, so if you have anything else you really want to show.
Sure,
Otherwise,
Sure,
right now we don't have any questions in the queue, so.
Yeah, so if any questions pop up, you guys just tell me.
I'll let you know.
Couple of things that I'll show you is that Mark mentioned PSTL. That's the Professional Services Tools Library. That has been free for several versions. So, I mean, back to I think 2010 or 13, it became free. What this allows you to do is it allows you to do things like I want to combine items. I would like to have the system check if there's if that PO number for that customer has been used before. I can do a bunch of things like that. GP does have customer item combiner that moved from here into utilities, but you get that option here in item number combiner, and you also get that with GL account modifier and combiner. If you notice, these are all pretty intense tools. You do not give full access to everyone to this window. But one that I think you should know about is this RM transaction unapply. So some people I've worked with will say, I don't move AR to history because the customers are always calling me and saying, apply that credit to this, and instead of moving it to this. You can use this to actually unapply and move the AR back into open so that it can be voided or reapplied as needed, which is really handy. So there's lots of things in the PSTL tools library that works really, really well. And then let me just go in here and show you. So if we go into sales and we go to receivables, batches, I went in here really quick. But one of the things that I really like is that with navigation lists for batches, you can pick the batches and you can print multiple edit lists. So it kind of replaces what you were doing in series post for AR, AP, and GL. So you can review your edit lists in bulk before you post them. So that's really, really handy. And then we're going to go into Smart List. As you mentioned with Smart List, you can build your own Smart Lists. I've built a Smart List based on a free SQL view that's on Victoria Udin's site, which we should all mention as another resource that's awesome for GP. And what this does is shows me like what customer, where we applied their credits and payments and all of that, so that I can run that if they're asking where things were applied. So I can get that type of information out as well. Also built through here, I built an AP. I do a bunch of these, you can see that. So we can see, I've got an AP distribution report. I did this for one that was running what expenses were used for the month, and it was very difficult for them, and they couldn't get the detailed data of what was included, and if the vendor had multiple distributions, it was very confusing and hard to run. So I used Smart List Builder for a whole lot of things. Anything in Smart List Builder can be turned into a live Excel. And anything in Smart List Designer, if it's built strictly on a SQL view, it can be published as a live Excel. So GP does have options to review and view your data as live Excel reports as well. So those are going to be, I didn't enable it on mine. It's very easy to enable. It's under administration and reporting tools. And you can, your partner or administrator can do that. And I'm just going to pick a place on my, and we'll just do this. You would put it not on a person's C drive, you would put it on a server and you do all the security fancy stuff. But then what you do is just go ahead and we can hit deploy and yes. And that is going to, did it do it? There we go. So that's going to go ahead and deploy. That's also where if you have SQL reporting services installed, and you would also deploy them from there as well. And next time I open up and run GP, I can get to that, but I can also get to that from here. And I can come in and I can view my PO line items and just open that, and it would pull live Excel. And as long as my security is there, I can run. Basically, a lot of the things that are directly in SmartList are preset by Microsoft as live Excel reports.
Very cool.
Nice. Since then, we did get two questions here.
Okay.
So one is thoughts on another year of enhancement / increasing or the enhancement increasing message regarding prepaying for multiple years at the current rate. I don't know if anybody has seen that and has any comments on that.
I think what they're referring to is, from what I understand, Microsoft is increasing the renewal rates, and if you buy in more years, I think you will save money, and I think it's a reasonable thing to do. I do believe that Microsoft will continue to change the renewal rate because they are trying to force people off of GP and onto their other less functional systems. There, that was PC. And so it may be a strategy that makes sense. I mean, GP is going to be around for another 20 years, easily. When you look at the DOS version of GP that people were still running, I think even today, but I know in 2015 there were still people running on it, and it had been, turned off 25 years previously. GP is still fully supported. And as we put on other webinars, there's tens of thousands of customers on GP. There's not enough human bandwidth of consultants to move everybody off tomorrow onto some other any system. So it's going to be around a very, very long time. Staying on the renewal enhancement is really important, even if it is a bit spendy or if it gets more costly. But because when you look though at the cost of moving to any other system, hands down, it's a huge bargain. Get the most of what you already own. It is a phenomenal product. It does so many things, and hopefully you learned today that it can do so much more than you probably realize.
Yeah.
If there's something to add to that, go ahead, Amber. I got a couple more.
Yeah. Oh no, that's okay. I was just going to say that, as Microsoft is building up their other products and they are getting better, on their other products, that doesn't mean that is the product for you. If you are running your business and your business is running well and all of the things that you want to do, and if you're running into a thing like I mentioned, just as an example with Mark's company, that if you want to modernize a specific part or you want to integrate to your web store, that's where the ISV community really steps in and steps up and does this to the level that just the specific need that you need is ask around, ask the community, go to the events, go to the expo center and just say, this is what we're doing. This is taking forever. We are getting pushed to move off of GP because of this. Somebody has, a thing they say it cannot do. Ask and find out from people that know the product well. If you are looking to move to other products, to me, if you use GP, you need to work with someone who knows GP well to get you ready for any other product you're ever thinking of. For someone to just say, I'm going to take your data and move it over or migrate you over or whatever, and they don't know the complexity of what you've been doing in GP and your functionality and how things are run in GP, and they just push you into the vanilla version of whatever product that they're marketing to you, that's not going to be a good fit. If they can find a way to make it better for you and that product, hey, adios and have a great time. And I'm learning other products as well, just as a trainer, but don't sacrifice all of the people knowledge that you have, the data that you have for many, many years, and the ability to add these amazing, well-tested, well-supported ISV products.
I'm not sure if I follow this next question, so I apologize. I'll try to translate the best I can. Can a user check preview after check printing from an inquiry window, or do you have to use a third party like McCorma?
Oh, they want to do
I'm not
check preview, so they want to see.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe look at the preview after it's been printed. Is what I'm thinking.
Well, I would do that a couple different ways. The answer simply is no. If they want to see it and then they're going to take things out, they would have to void those checks after printing the other checks, and it gets very messy. I've had people think that print to screen is a preview and they're wasting check numbers, because that's not how GP does. You'd have to print to screen and then print to printer and then void the ones that you're wanting to get rid of. So that would not be a great way to do it. What I would do is in SmartList, like out of the box, you can do an unposted checklist so you can see all of the checks that are going to be in there. A lot easier to read and view than doing a edit list, which has a lot of gobbledygook that you don't care about. The other thing you can do is there's a free SQL view on Victoria Udin, Yudin web, her website, so victoriaudin.com, for AP distributions. And AP apply is what I'm thinking more of the AP apply. So if you want to, you're doing that so you can see what's on the stubs, do an unposted AP apply report, which you can do through SmartList Designer or Builder using a SQL view. But don't print them to window or to screen and think it's a edit list or like a preview. So if they're trying to do that for alignment, GP does allow for check alignments that just print X's and lets you make sure that the printer you're printing on is going to work, and the windows for the check will work, but print to screen is not a preview.
Yeah, and I know there's like some of the reports, but yeah, it's not necessarily the preview. And the last one, and we got 4 minutes here, is hold on, let me jump back. More of an opinion question and answer. When will Microsoft sunset all of the sunset talk? And do you see a GP renaissance on the horizon?
Only 4 minutes to answer those questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. GP got elevated from the fixed life cycle policy to the modern life cycle policy about 5 years ago. So the roadmap has said 2028 and beyond since that time. So we're getting closer to that date. Microsoft's either going to do nothing and make people sweat it out as we get closer to 2028 to determine what they're going to do, or they'll probably draw a line in the sand and say, gee, support and new functionality is going to end at a certain date and time. So what they're going to do is anybody's guess. They're the publisher. They own the code. They're probably not going to sell it to somebody.
Right.
So it's hard to predict what they're going to do. They have a lot of options, but as others have said already, they are pushing for cloud-based solutions for Dynamics, and that means the on-prem versions are not getting the love they once did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's worth waiting, because let's suppose that at some day, 5 years in the future, Microsoft says, look, we're done. You got some 30,000 other customers out there. They're not done.
Right.
You're going to have plenty of time if you are frightened by that. But there's such a deep, rich community here to support this way into the future, way past its prime. Like Solomon has been around, I think stopped in 2001 or so. So that's been 23 years and there's still people running on that just fine. So
it's a good reason to talk to your partner, right? I mean,
yeah.
if you have concerns as a customer, you should sit down with your reseller partner and discuss them, make a plan, determine their level of support. There are a lot of partners out there that have made commitments, resellers and ISVs that have made lengthy commitments to GP, independent of the roadmap. So talk to your partner. If you don't have a good relationship with your current reseller partner, then go to Summit next month and find a new one. There's a lot of them out there that are supporting GP, but you got to have a good relationship with your partner. That's a key component in your future success and scalability.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, I think you use GP long enough and you just forget some of the things you do. You forget how well some of those things work. And so even if you're looking at something else, you ask a lot of questions, but it's hard to know. Well, we've been doing this thing for 15 years. We forget that we do it this way, and it was terrible in whatever system we had before that. Figuring out how to ask those questions is hard. Can you do this complicated thing that we forget we even do? And even then, it all comes down to process. If you're looking at something else, you need to understand not just what features it has, but what does that process look like? What are the steps like? Um, if every system out there will do a general ledger and will generate payments and will receive cash, like that's table stakes. But how hard, how complicated, how hard to train people, how hard to retrain people, all of that becomes a challenge. And so, unless you're ready for a lot of disruption, I would do everything you can to hang on to what you've got until you're ready to tackle that disruption.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know there's probably now that probably stirred up more. That was probably not the question to ask at the end, but I appreciate everybody's thoughtfulness, everybody's shares, and it's always good to get to spend some time with each and every one of you. And as it's already been mentioned, can't wait to see you guys all next month. So yeah,
That's great.
with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.